back in Youngstown, and good to see my friend Maggie from many years ago worked for the library. Thank you for helping to host this year. And Mayor Brown was, when I became chair of the Bank Housing Committee 14 months or so ago, our first witness when we did our first hearing was Mayor Brown, so thank you. And he has been really important to our office in a whole bunch of ways in council. Decade plus in council, thanks for the work you do. And Administrator Regan, what excites me about him is with this president and this EPA administrator, he understands that good environmental policy and good jobs go together. Congressman Ryan and Minister Regan and I were talking when we were at Bill Cooley's house just a few minutes ago about some jobs issues in Ohio, and the EPA understands that when we're producing electric batteries or electric cars, when we're doing all kinds of good environmental, good economic policy, how they go together in Ohio. Ohio can help lead the way, and I appreciate your appointment. It's not even get the vote to confirm you some time ago. This was less controversial than others. Congressman Ryan, I'll get to in a minute the work that we've done on this issue itself on infrastructure and what brings us to the Valley today to talk about it. President after president, presidential candidate after presidential candidate, my first kind of up close, Bill Clinton, then Bush, then Obama, then Trump. Each of them said they were going to do infrastructure. They made a campaign promise that they would do infrastructure. It took this president and this new Senate and this House representative to finally do a strong bipartisan infrastructure bill. And what we're here today to talk about getting is safe drinking water. A few things are as important. I mean, safe clean air, obviously, and safe drinking water. A few things are as important to the community as that. And we are taking this issue head on. Congressman Ryan carried the bill in the House. Senator Portman and I in the Senate working as we replace these 600,000 pipes in Ohio, more than any state in the country except for Illinois, the pipes that go from main water lines into people's homes. We know the impact that lead contamination has on infants and babies and small children's brain development and how important it is, and we're going to replace those pipes in Youngstown and Appalachia and my hometown of Mansfield and Cleveland, all over the state, all over the country, and that's one of the most important missions that Administrator Regan has. And as part of that, Senator Portman and Congressman Ryan and I insisted that we have strong Buy America provisions. We started that in a bill about a decade ago. We now have in the whole infrastructure bill, whenever tax dollars are involved, these products need to be made by American workers of the United States. We know that the actual work on the ground in front of Bill Cooley's and others' homes will be done by union pipe fitters, good paying jobs, and will bring a lot more prosperity to the Valley, and that's our mission too. And when you think about safe drinking water, you shouldn't have to live in an expensive suburb to have clean, safe drinking water. That's our mission. That's what we're planning to do. That's what we'll continue to do.
Mayor, Councilman, Senator, Administrator, thank you. Appreciate everybody being here. This is, stand on Bill's front porch. We do a lot of things in Washington, D.C., and the concern always from Senator Brown and I is like, is this going to hit the neighborhood? Is this going to hit the community where it needs to be hit? Is this going to help lift people up? And I think we talk about the idea of clean drinking water, understanding that lead poisoning is irreversible. This isn't something, you can go to the doctor and get fixed over time. And so we are in a position now as a country, we're in a deep competition with the entire globe. We only have 330 million people, which means these bills that we pass are making sure that everyone can have an opportunity to be healthy, to be educated, to be trained, and to live in a community where they can live the American dream. That's what this is all about. This is about us being competitive, and you can't be competitive if you're not healthy. You can't learn in school if you're not healthy. So these investments go a very, very long way into making sure this region, and Senator Brown mentioned the Buy American provisions. This is about job creation. You look at what's happening out at Lordstown with the Alton cells. You look at what's happening with Foxconn. You look at what's happening with Intel in the state of Ohio. We've got to make sure that we have the workforce ready to take these jobs of the future by the thousands, or going into the union skilled trades here in the state building these facilities or doing the water lines. All of this is really important, but it starts with our kids being healthy. So this gets right to the foundation of making sure that we have opportunity for everybody right here in the city of Youngstown, right here in the Mahoning Valley, right here in Ohio. And this needs to happen across the state and across the country. So this is hopefully just a down payment, and we can keep this going because we've got to modernize our country. We've got to make sure all 330 million people in this country are on the field playing for us with the Team USA jersey on, and that's what this is all about. So I want to thank the Administrator and President Biden and others for helping bring this money right here to the Mahoning Valley. And with that, let's give a warm Mahoning Valley welcome to the Administrator Regan.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I want to thank Senator Brown and Congressman Ryan. I'll tell you, without their strong partnership with the President of the United States, we wouldn't be here today with the resources that we have to invest in our infrastructure and our people infrastructure. So thank you all for that leadership. Mayor Brown, it's been a pleasure getting to know you this morning, and I'll tell you, as a child who grew up with respiratory challenges myself, we are at a point in society where we don't have to choose between good jobs and good health. And I think you and I are good examples of that. Councilman Ray, it's so good to be with you, and thank you so much for your leadership. You know, since I started this role at EPA over a year ago, I've had the privilege to travel all across the country. I've visited cities, small towns, and everything in between. I've spoken to countless parents who worry about the safety of the water flowing through their taps, the water that their children drink. For many years, lead was the go-to material for service lines that deliver drinking water to all of our homes, our businesses, and even our child care centers. And unfortunately, many of these lead pipes still exist in the United States of America. An estimated 6 to 10 million lead service lines are still in use in this country. But the science has been clear. There is absolutely no safe level of lead in our drinking water. Not for anyone, but especially not for our children. So I'm here today as Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, which is my formal title. But most importantly, I'm here today as a parent of an 8-year-old son. Like any parent, my number one priority is the health and safety of my child and the children of this country. And yet too many families in this country are denied peace of mind that comes with knowing that their child is drinking safe and affordable water. The tragedy of lead exposure is shared by too many communities across this country, especially Black and brown communities. A recent study found that Black children living at or below poverty in the United States of America are 4 times more likely to have elevated levels of lead in their blood. Exposure to lead can lead to severely mental and physical development. For children, it can stunt growth, slow down learning, and cause irreparable damage to the brain. No parent in the United States of America should carry that worry. No person should live in fear that the water from the tap will poison them. And that's why the lead service line replacement all across this country, and especially in states like Ohio, is so critical. And we are committed, and the President is committed to using every tool in the toolbox to ensure that we eradicate this injustice. It's a moral imperative that no child and no family should have to drink polluted water. So thanks to the President and the Vice President's leadership, the Senate and the Congressman's leadership, the bipartisan infrastructure law dedicates the single largest investment to water infrastructure in United States history. $50 billion, billion with a B, will flow through EPA's highly successful water infrastructure program, including $15 billion to remove 100% of the lead service lines across this country. So here in Ohio, that means an investment of $242 million just this year, and the creation of 3,700 jobs, with more to come. Good paying jobs, plumbers, pipe fitters, construction laborers, all kinds of jobs that are homegrown, homemade, that will be done here in Ohio. More than 71 million of those resources alone will be dedicated to the removal and replacement of lead service lines all across the state, but especially in communities like Youngstown. And we're going to make sure that the communities most in need, the communities who've long been shut out of government funding, finally get the resources that they deserve. The bipartisan infrastructure law is a game changer for communities throughout Ohio and throughout the nation. Just yesterday, our administration put out guidance on the Buy American provision that both Senator Brown and Congressman Ryan helped to champion in the bipartisan infrastructure law. This will help ensure that these historic investments return to Ohio, and the sort of good-paying jobs that built Youngstown will continue to be in Youngstown. As President Biden said, when we spend taxpayer dollars to rebuild America, we're going to buy American products that support American jobs. Folks, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build a better America, to ensure that water infrastructure can withstand the impacts of climate change, to create a future where all of our children, regardless of the color of their skin or how much money they have in their pockets, live in areas where they can play in local rivers and streams without fear of hazard and harm, and to deliver a long overdue justice to all of the people in this country. So thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, thanks to the leadership of the people on the stage that I'm sharing, we're going to make that vision a reality. Together, we will work to propel cities like Youngstown into the future with safer, healthier, and more resilient water infrastructure supported by good, paying Ohioan jobs. And make no mistake, we will not rest until every child in America has access to clean water. So thank you all.
Questions, anybody, or if you want to do individual interviews with Secretary Congressman?
I was saying, in a release I saw, Mayor, you mentioned ARPA money is going to be set aside to pay at least for a portion of this. Any idea in terms of figures, how much of the city's amount of ARPA money will go toward this? How much from the infrastructure bill will pay for what Youngstown's going to have happen?
Sure, that's a great point. Actually, we want to take what we have in ARPA funds and leverage with these funds as well. So we don't have an exact number. We're working on some projects. We have numbers. Eric Johnson's here at Water, and we're trying to figure out what that number looks like. I think this is going to help us continue to help grow the number of families that we can further impact with these dollars. So I'm excited about taking a portion of what we already have and then leveraging with those more federal dollars so that we can have a greater impact on the families that we have.
One more question, if I can, for either you or whomever. We've seen in other parts of Mahoney County in Sebring where they've had a lead pipe problem from the street to the people's homes and had problems paying, homeowners had to pay for that. Is this something where homeowners will not have to pay to have these pipes replaced?
Okay, thanks. The goal of this, when we finally realized we had a president and a Senate that were going to move on an infrastructure bill, and we worked with Senator Portman in the Senate and Congressman Ryan in the House, we knew that we had public health issues to fix. These 600,000 lead pipes, the pipes contaminated with lead in Ohio. We also knew that how important it was to create jobs, and that's the Buy America provisions. We also knew how important it was to manage costs for families, just like this Senate is dedicated to bringing down the cost of prescription drugs, especially for diabetics. That's the one that's the most top of mind, but for so many others, we were pledging to keep the costs down on replacing these water systems. When we were at Bill's house, he talked about the water and sewer bills, what he's faced over the last 20 years, how they've gone up. And we want to make sure, that's why we put so much money in this, we want to make sure that we stabilize and perhaps in some cases bring prices down. That will partly be up to what the mayor can do, leveraging the funds that he talked about.
The press release said that this project will benefit 90 plus homes. So how many more, might be lead replacement, like either in Youngstown or within the state?
One of the things that we're seeing here is, under the president's leadership, step one is the ability to use the American Rescue Plan dollars to begin to tackle the problem. And like you said, in Youngstown, we're looking at about 90 homes. EPA is leveraging about $50 million to provide technical assistance to mayors like Mayor Brown to do an assessment, just to have a complete understanding of just how many lead service lines we have in place. With that assessment, we also want to help towns like Youngstown be competitive for that $71 million that we will allot to the state. So it will take a true partnership from my level down to the mayor's level to do a correct assessment and then leverage all of the resources from the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law to get rid of all the lead pipes in this state.
Okay, why did you guys decide to tackle the Eddie, Roy, Hazelwood area first? Is there any thing behind that?
Go with the comment, Mayor.
It's the area I represent, and the problem with breakage, we monitor that, so you see that the lines break down, and then the engineers from the water department say, okay, this is a place we should target. Also knowing that that's old, the age of the neighborhood, knowing lead could be there too, was a factor in deciding that we should tackle that.
Okay, so then the lead pipes are, they're really like in homes that were, you know, built in or before what time period?
No, it's the age, and we stopped using the lead service lines.
Well, good, pre-war, World War II.
Terry Johnson.
You said 1920 at some of the houses in that
The
neighborhood.
one of the houses we had, 23 was his son's house was in 24.
Way longer than that.
Yeah, bigger for that.
And do you have to apply for your pipes replaced, or do you guys just go and tackle it on your own?
Well, we're actually, Harry, Youngstown, we've been more aggressive. We just actually brought on a water equality compliance person. So we know this is going on. We've been working with the county. We have individuals there. So we've been looking at where we believe that the health issues are. We look at the social health indicators in those neighborhoods as well. And we had water and wastewater get together and talk about shovel-ready projects. And this is a part of that shovel-ready projects that we already have. And then we wanted to affect those and impact those neighborhoods where those families are living as well.
Any
I'm
ideas?
sorry, let me go back to that. One of the things that makes this administration different, the Biden administration and the Senate and House leadership, and the fact that Democrats run the Senate and the House, is that we understood a long time ago. That's why the mayor came out in my first hearing. We understood a long time ago that we want to provide the resources, but we want these decisions made locally. And we want to get these dollars to the mayor and to the council, and they decide which neighborhoods and where the best use of them. We began the process of congressionally directed spending and have been gone for a dozen years since sort of radical Tea Party Republicans eliminated them. They call them earmarks, call them what you want. But we are putting money into local communities, but it's in response when the mayor and the council or the county commissioners or township trustees and boardmen, wherever, or the city of Austintown, they come to us with these ideas and we try to fund them if they're decisions made locally, and that's how we operate, and that's why this is better government than it's been before.
And do any of you have any idea how long your project might take?
Harry, we start to finish out the project on the
The big issue is, getting supplies, I think to the point in time, we don't have an exact numbers, and once it goes through all the approval mechanisms, we anticipate the project to start sometime in July. A project this magnitude would take anywhere from 60 to 90 days approximately.
Other questions, thoughts?
So I know lead pipes right now are being looked at, but is there any consideration with lead paint in the homes? I know that has been a concern. Are we gonna be looking at any type of lead paint on the walls and that type of health risk?
Yeah, I think one of the bigger pieces for us is the entire health, the social health indicators. And when we look at our infant mortality rate, just know with our health department, as well as our lead paint removal program in the county, we are looking at all those factors. So this is just one piece. And one of the other pieces we want to make sure, no matter where individuals live, if they're renting or they're owning, we want to eradicate the lead paint in those homes as well. So we're trying to look at all those pieces. And some families are better fortunate than others. We know there's underlying health issues. COVID just helped us understand that this is something we want to continue on and make sure that we continue working with our partners at the county.
And I'll just add, Secretary Marshall, Clerk, and I, of Housing and Urban Development, we were in Cleveland yesterday talking about the very issue in the area right now. We're talking about that combination of lead pipes and lead paint. And we have a lead pipe and lead paint removal strategy that's being led by the Vice President. And so what you're seeing is the Environmental Protection Agency and the like HUD and HHS really began to leverage all of our resources to be sure that none of our children in this country are exposed to lead, whether it be through paint or whether it be through pipes. And so EPA's role in that is ensuring that when homes in Youngstown are being rehabbed or restored, that the contractors are trained and use adequate protection and best management practices when they remove that lead paint and ensure that they store that lead paint in safe areas so that we can reduce human exposure. So this is a whole of government approach. I think that Senator Brown has rightfully said there's a lot different about this administration. Number one, these resources are more readily available to people of all walks of life. Most of these will be done through grants or forgivable loans. That allows for communities to come to the table without matching dollars that have never been able to access these resources. Number two, the decisions are being driven by local decision makers, and it's very important that states like Ohio and cities like Youngstown have the type of leadership we're seeing here today, because we really want to move as quickly as possible to reduce these lead exposures. And so there's a whole of government approach with this administration. We're going to do our best job to reduce that exposure to everyone, no matter their zip code or where they live, but most importantly, to reduce that exposure to our children.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, appreciate it.